Today I am reviewing the second book of the Star Wars Thrawn Trilogy, the original Thrawn Trilogy. Star Wars Legends, as Disney likes to call it, Star Wars EU, getting into all that stuff now. And just as I reviewed the first one, I am going to have the second book here. Got the original cover as well. I didn't want to get the Disney Legends, like whatever cover. I wanted to get the original cover. Got the original cover here of the Dark Force Rising book. This is the middle book of this trilogy. And just like last time as well, I did get like the comic as well, just to kind of read along with it. It is kind of cool to have a visual here of like the actual story, you know, actually some sort of representation of the story at least, with the Star Wars Dark Force Rising comic. And I know they got a comic for Last Command. I've already got that all set up. I'm ready to read that. But this is the review for the second book. So here we go. This one is picking up, obviously, from Heir to the Empire. It ended with Admiral Akbar being arrested. So I really like the first book. I think I like the first one more, but it's kind of hard to say because it's kind of just, it's all meshing together for me. It's like really just the big same story. Like it's really just all one thing, at least so far. I really just feels like it just continues on. It doesn't really feel necessarily segmented to me yet. It just kind of feels like its own type of story right now. It's a full-blown 3-movie book trilogy type of story. So Star Wars Dark Force Rising. Thrawn is still the threat. Luke managed to get off Merkur, or however you say that planet's name, with Mara Jade. They had the little final battle there on the planet where Karrde was hiding out, Talon Karrde. Did mention last review that Talon Karrde was my favorite new character. New to me, at least at the moment, because I kind of had an idea of what Thrawn kind of was already. I think overall, though, Thrawn is like the top guy for me in these stories right now. It's kind of hard not to be because he is just that great in these books. Thrawn is still like the coolest of the new characters, and when I say new, it's new for these stories. Thrawn is my favorite of these characters. And Talon Karrde, though, is definitely a character I was almost like not aware of at all. Going into the Thrawn trilogy, I didn't even know he was really a character in Star Wars, so him to me is really interesting. And I wouldn't say, I think he had a better book for book one for sure, Heir to the Empire. Don't know what he'll have in Last Command, but he definitely had a better, I think he had a little bit of a better story in Heir to the Empire. But a Talon Karrde, still a really cool new character. Story's kind of linked with Mara Jade. But yeah, we're picking back up after that big final battle. Lando's kind of hurt and stuff, so we kind of pick back up with that as well. Leia has this agreement to go and meet with the Noghri on their planet to kind of try and negotiate maybe a way for the Noghri to kind of abandon the Empire and maybe join the Republic. And then obviously the Akbar stuff where he got arrested and this Borsk Fela guy, the senator guy, is being an absolute asshole. That's where we're kind of left here in the story. So immediately the book kind of begins where Thrawn is seeking to attack Talon Karrde now because he realizes that Karrde had managed to help Luke escape from the Empire. So now Talon Karrde is totally like on the Empire's bad side, no longer that friendly with Thrawn. Now he is after Karrde, and he's expecting him to actually not be there. He already kind of expects Karrde to be abandoned and left the area, which he did. So Karrde is no longer at his base, but Thrawn actually makes his way there. It still invades his base and kind of realizes he's not there and sends his people in anyways just to verify, kind of snoop around a little bit and see if there's any information they can pick up from his base that would be vital to them. But yeah, Talon Karrde is gone, so that was kind of the first big action from Thrawn that we picked up with in his book. And when it comes to Talon Karrde and Mara Jade trying to escape Thrawn, there's this whole scene where Mara Jade is actually able to predict when like there's like a certain trap that Thrawn has, like a ship coming and whatnot, and she senses it and she gets away, and she's kind of using her force abilities, and that's something she's still kind of keeping secret. She's not really like out and about, like just saying like I'm a former Jedi and I can just do all these things, or not Jedi, but like Hand of the Emperor. She's hiding her abilities, and in that moment when she is trying to escape from Thrawn with Talon Karrde and she manages to blast off from their ship hiding behind an asteroid, Thrawn kind of realizes like we're dealing with something a little different than just a normal smuggler guy or whatever like Talon Karrde and Mara Jade. Mara Jade is someone quite fascinating. So obviously the major plot of this book, overarching like story point, is that there is this big fleet of dreadnought cruisers out there in the galaxy somewhere that is kind of lost, and it is the Dark Force, or the Katana fleet, that is out there that was lost before the Empire was even risen. and they went out there and they're all like linked together, and they all got sent out on some sort of, malfunction of whatnot. All the crew like died in that whole Katana fleet, and now there's all these ships out there somewhere. No one knows where it is, and the Empire desperately wants to find it because it is a major fleet of ships that will help Thrawn regain control. Obviously, it would be good for the Republic to know where those are as well, to keep the Empire at bay and, push them back a little bit more. So it's a big race to find the Katana fleet. And guess what? Talon Card knows where it is. So that is his big secret. That is kind of one of the big reasons as to why Thrawn is after him, is because he is hiding the secret of where this whole fleet of ships is. Now, the whole book, obviously, we go on several different adventures and stuff, but again, the overarching thing is Thrawn really wants to get to the Katana fleet. He wants the Dark Force, and the Republic kind of wants it too. They don't want the Empire to get it, more or less, but they kind of want that fleet too. They want that control of it so that the Empire doesn't have it, and they can kind of keep the galaxy safe. But Thrawn obviously is very adamant about finding that fleet. Now, a new character brought into this book is Niles Ferrier, and he's another like smuggler type ship thief kind of guy out there, kind of causing trouble and havoc mainly for Han and Lando in this book. He also causes some trouble for Luke in the beginning of the book. We meet him quite early in the book, and he's immediately like on a ship trying to steal ships, and we get introduced to him, and you kind of know when he's around, because he's got his cigar and he's got his certain scent to him when he's walking around a room, and he's kind of just a thorn in the side for our characters. I thought he was interesting. He's not like my favorite new character of the trilogy right now, but he's interesting enough to the point where it's like his character's doing the job. Like he comes into the story and you're kind of frustrated. You're like, oh shit. Well, now we're gonna have some trouble going on. He's either helping Thrawn or he's finding ships for himself, trying to steal things for his own good. So he's a pain in the side for our characters throughout the book whenever he shows up. Not a great character, but I also don't think he's not a great guy. He's not a great guy. I don't think he's like the most evil guy in the whole galaxy either. You got Thrawn and the Empire still out there. So, but yeah, he's definitely a thorn in their side through this book. I do expect to see him possibly show up in the next book. Took a peek at the comics, so may see him in Last Command as well. But yeah, new character thrown in there, and lots of new characters are thrown into this book as well. So we're kind of building up like a new crew of heroes and villains within this whole trilogy of books here. You're not just throwing in a bunch of old characters now from the movies. You're making up all this new stuff. So the last book did end with the whole issue of Admiral Akbar being arrested. That was like the cliffhanger. So we are now at that point where Admiral Akbar is arrested, and now our heroes have to go find a way to prove his innocence. There's like this sum of money that's been like transferred to his account, his like bank account or whatever, and it's all like Thrawn's doing. He's like meddling in the New Republic's stuff to kind of cause chaos within there while he's trying to rebuild the Empire. So meanwhile he's like meddling with the New Republic as well as trying to basically destroy them and rebuild the Empire. Han, Luke, Lando, they all start to go out and try to find and prove his innocence. And you got the Senator Borsk or whatever his name is, Fela, the like furry Bothan guy who is a pain in the ass last book. He's a pain in the ass in this book too, just as stubborn. And he is out to get Admiral Akbar. This guy, he wants to throw Admiral Akbar away. He wants to just toss him in prison and take his spot. He wants to take control and wants to take charge of the New Republic. He feels like his way is the way to go, obviously, and I don't know how in maybe with the Empire he is or not, or if he's just that much of a stubborn asshole in general of a politician or a senator or whatever. So we'll see, but he definitely is. He's not in the book that much, but when you get to Coruscant and you have those few moments in the book, he's definitely a pain in the ass. I mean, as annoyed as I was in the last book and the last review, I was kind of annoyed of all the politics stuff. It just was like my least favorite bit of it. It was definitely a lot heavier even in this book. I think I am finding him to be a little bit more of an interesting character this time around, at least. I'm not just like totally annoyed when this Fela senator guy comes into the story. But he's more interesting now. I'm more captivated on what kind of story is going on here with him and what his play is and what he's going to do and what he wants to do and why he's doing this stuff. So we'll see. I mean, Han even tries to talk to him a little bit in this book, and he is dead set on just taking down Akbar, even if he was completely wrong. He is set in his ways. He wants to take down Akbar. He thinks Akbar is like the most evil guy in the Republic ever, and it's really strange. But yeah, Akbar is not in this book much at all, but he is in the beginning, and he talks with the crew a little bit. And yeah, they need to find his innocence. So while Mara, Jade, and Talon Karrde are on their way to, running away from the Empire, Mara does end up getting captured by the Empire and Thrawn while like she was separated from Talon Karrde. So they kind of like separated, kind of went out on different ships while they were out trying to escape from the Empire. And she ends up getting captured, and she does end up going to just talk with Thrawn. Thrawn lets her come up and, they chit-chat a little bit. He kind of learns about her past in the Empire, and she thinks she's got like this authority over the Empire and even Thrawn, but it's becoming apparent in the story that like Thrawn is like, no man, this is a new Empire. Like, this Empire is not the same Empire that you left. You have kind of abandoned your role. You're not even this hand to the Emperor anymore. You're not the Emperor's hand anymore. And there have been multiple hands to the Emperor. And that is a big shock to her. That's like one of the big reveals for Mara in this book, is she's not the only person to have been the hand to the Emperor. And she's not like this special side assassin that he had. Apparently, according to Thrawn here, he had multiple hands to the Emperor. So it's like, well, she's not even that special then. So it kind of disillusions her with, her emperor that she loves so dearly that died. That's why she wants to kill Luke so bad, at least initially, as he's the one who kind of took down the Empire. Even though he didn't kill the Emperor, she doesn't care. She still wants to kill Luke because he took all this really away. That's definitely an interesting point. It's probably like the big little switch, suddenly like, oh, I'm not as important as I was to the Emperor. Well, how much do I really want to be devoted to this old way anymore than, the hand of the Emperor, like whatever, right? So we'll see where that goes. It does kind of we're kind of left at that point in the story for her. Like, she helps out Luke some more, Talon Karrde, she kind of helps basically the heroes in this book, in this story. But she, at the end, she still is a little disillusioned with the Emperor stuff. And I do know that she eventually switches sides. I'm aware of that. But we'll see how the story gets her to that point, because I don't know that. But yeah, that is definitely a big story point. And she initially is given like a chance by Thrawn, kind of like to kind of rejoin the Empire. Maybe join the Empire again, help me out a little bit. So Mara is let go from Thrawn, but there is a deal set in place. I believe he wanted the fleet. He wanted the Katana fleet, and he wanted her to get Talon Karrde to tell her where it is. And he's giving her a certain amount of days, and he sends her out to go and find Karrde to get the information and bring it back to him. And if not, he's going to go about his way and try to get it himself. And that obviously gets changed a little bit later in the book. But that is how she kind of gets away from Thrawn, is like he really didn't capture her. He captured her to lock her in place and force her to go and get information from Karrde, because he thinks that maybe she still wants to be a vital part to the Empire. But obviously that's already going to kind of change a little bit now, and her loyalties are a little bit stronger with Talon Karrde right now than it is to her former Empire. So that is where her story is kind of going in this book. It was kind of cool to see her interacting with Thrawn too, kind of interesting conversation. But Thrawn is obviously the guy in charge now, and she's kind of realizing that. So in this book, we get to see a little bit more of Luke doing his Jedi stuff, which is cool. Because now he's like a full Jedi. We got to see him in Return of the Jedi. He's like kind of become a like full Jedi, but he still had to defeat the Empire and all that stuff. But now like this is his life as, the like one of the singular Jedi in the galaxy, presumably. So he gets to experience like different situations now as a Jedi. And while he's out on a mission with Han and Lando and stuff to find out things about Fela and stuff and try to prove Akbar's innocence, he ends up getting mixed in between this fight in this bar area that he's in while he's waiting for Han and Lando and stuff. So while he's waiting, there's two people that are arguing about whatever, like credits or whatnot, and he is asked to intervene and come up with a solution. They want him because he's the Jedi. He's the Jedi Master. They're supposed to solve the issues. They're supposed to create peace. So he is asked to create peace amongst these people that are having their beef. And he kind of comes up with a solution, and I just thought that was interesting. You know, we get to see this side now of Luke's life where he is now viewed in the galaxy whenever he's around somewhere. Like he is like the moral guy. He's got to make the choice. He's the one to make the choices, apparently. That's what people expect of him, at least. So he is the singular heroic Jedi in the galaxy now. And yeah, it's fascinating. It's certainly fascinating to see the world and the galaxy that he kind of created, and now that he's in, the Empire's kind of gone. They're not totally ruling over everything now, and now there's a Jedi. And he's seeing what they kind of expect of him. So at a certain point in the book, we split off to like 3 separate different storylines for our main heroes. Luke goes off to find Sabayoth after kind of, you know, initially being on the same mission with Han and Lando. He goes off to find Sabayoth. Han and Lando end up going and finding an old, he's a new character, but he's like an old senator from Corellia and stuff. And then Leia actually goes off to do her mission that she kind of set up last book, where she is going to try and talk to the Nogri people on the planet of Honager. Don't know if that's how you say it or not, but it's the Nogri home planet. And Thrawn right now and the Empire has basically got this grip on them that they're like the servants for the Empire, and they have to serve because Vader was the one who protected them and stuff, and they serve, you know, Grand Admiral Thrawn now because he's the new guy in charge. So they have to serve the Empire, and she's there to find out why. And I'll kind of make it brief here because it does take up a big chunk of the story. But she gets there, she realizes that the Empire is in charge. Thrawn treats them like absolute garbage. He doesn't see them the same way that maybe Vader did, because Vader came down and helped them out at some point in some way, but then kind of got them entangled in helping the Empire. So they don't see Thrawn as like a Vader, but they still serve him. And there are these droids on the planet that are trying to replenish the planet because the planet's been ruined by old past wars. And initially Leia thinks it's part of the rebellion war with the rebels and the Empire, and they think that maybe there's ships and stuff that blew up and kind of ruined the atmosphere and whatnot, that maybe she's partially at fault because the rebellion was part of the whole war, and maybe there is an issue there that was kind of caused indirectly by them. But in reality, she ends up finding out that the Empire's actually initially seeded their whole planet with this invasive plant that looks similar to a different one, like this grass, and it's been ruining their whole planet and their fields and stuff and their dirt. And she eventually convinces them that this is what the Empire is actually doing, and they're lying to you. You know, they're these droids that the Empire sent out to replenish the planet and fix the planet over all these years. They're not actually doing anything, and that convinces them to eventually turn and realize that maybe their debt to the Empire is finally served, and we should probably maybe change sides a little bit. I think that's gonna continue in the next book. It kind of left off with Leia finally being able to free her friendly Nogri that helped her last book. Oh, he's kind of like her friend now, and there was a whole situation where Thrawn almost found out about him. She gets him freed, and they go off back to Coruscant. So we'll see where that goes. But the whole Nogri people thing, I didn't expect them to be such a significant part of this whole Thrawn storyline. But I know that Rook is a big character, and I know, I don't think it's spoilers at this point. I know how Thrawn dies. I do know who kills Thrawn, and I do know that he dies. I don't know how he dies. I know who kills him, and I know that he dies. So I am going into the story knowing that. So I know that Rook is a interesting character. He's the bodyguard of Thrawn, and he is a Nogri. And I think this whole storyline of Thrawn not being as well received with the Nogri people, I think that's going to be playing a part. I think right now, at least, that's going to be playing a part into how Thrawn meets his end. But we'll see. We'll get to that point next story. But yeah, the Nogri people are definitely a major plot to the Thrawn trilogy here, and it's a much bigger plot and integral part of the story than I thought it would be. So Han and Lando end up going and running across some of Senator Bel Iblis. I don't know if that's how you say his name or not, but it's an old rebellion guy who was part of the rebellion at the beginning, and I guess he like abandoned because he didn't like exactly how they were doing things. So he left the rebellion, but he's kind of still like part of, you know, early rebellion and stuff. He left it, and now he's kind of out there on his own doing his own stuff. And this is a guy that like Han looked up to as a kid, and he met him as a kid at a school. So it's kind of like this history in a way for Han Solo, and it's kind of interesting. But then they end up discovering that Bell is actually in possession of some dreadnought ships from the Katana fleet, the Dark Force that is apparently missing. So this is a guy who has seemingly right now no connection to Talon Card, but Talon Card knows where they are. But this guy has a few ships from that fleet, and this is the realization that there's someone else out there that knows where this fleet is. So although this Bell Abyss guy initially says, all right, go off on your own, I'll tell you who my guy was that kind of told me where these ships were, or the guy who got the ships for him. So he's got a few of the ships, but he doesn't know where the fleet is. He has a different person out there who knows where the fleet is. So he gives him the contact, and that's kind of where the next chunk of the story goes, is Han and Lando are now going to go and try to find this contact that Bell Iblis had to the Katana fleet, because they need to get to the Katana fleet in the Dark Force before Thrawn can find this thing. So it set Han and Lando on the path of finding the fleet as well, and it also kind of introduced this new hero that we do see again at the end of the book, helping them out. So we're introducing some new big heroes here in these stories. Really cool to see. I don't mind this guy so far. I mean, we'll see how he goes going into the next book. I'm assuming he's going to be playing a part. He's fine. You know, he's interesting for sure. And his ties to the early Republic. It seems like he doesn't like Mon Mothma all that much. I don't know if I think he's going to try to like come back and join the rebellion in some way, or not the rebellion anymore, just the New Republic at this point. I don't think he wants to have a part in that necessarily, but we'll see where that goes next book. I think there's some tensions there that need to be resolved. So in this book, we're still dealing with Sabaoth, and Sabaoth is. He's in this book, I would say, I don't know if I think it's a little less than the last one, because the last one he had a lot of interactions with Thrawn, but outside of the few chapters with Luke, Jorah Sabaoth is not in this book all that much outside of the few chapters. So besides the few chapters though, like he's got this whole like story here with Luke, and Luke comes in, he starts to do his training with this old Jedi Master that was apparently lost, and now he's just kind of reappearing in the galaxy, and he's on Jomark. So he goes to Jomark, where Sabaoth is, and Sabaoth is kind of like ruling over these people now. There's people in this area that he's at, and he's living on this like little island in like a volcano, I think. And he's kind of ruling over these people, and immediately it's like red flags. It's like really weird. This guy's like ruling over these people, and it's almost like with power and strength. You know, how is that a Jedi thing? You know, and Luke realizes that pretty early on. You know, there's a part in the story where Sabaoth and Luke go into the town, and he goes to resolve some issues. You know, there's some different issues with some of the townsfolk there, and the way that Sabaoth deals with it is he just electrocutes people. You know, whoever he thinks is wrong, he just electrocutes them and shows strength of power, and he uses lightning, like force lightning, and that's that force lightning thing. That's something that Luke saw the Emperor do. Like, how is this a Jedi thing? You know, this guy is using some very dark side tendencies to act as a Jedi. So obviously he's a dark Jedi, and that is something that Luke has to come to the realization of, and he does it pretty quick, but he's kind of hesitant because, you know, he really, really wants to believe that Sabaoth is someone out here that can help him after Ben kind of disappeared. You know, he's kind of stopped talking to him. So Sabaoth is this old Jedi Master apparently out there in the galaxy, and he really wants to believe that this guy can help him out. But it's becoming quite clear to him through this point in the story here where Sabaoth is not here for his best interest, and he's really after Leia and her twins. And that's kind of one of the big turning points for Luke. I mean, we got this whole bit with Mara a little later where she comes in and helps him. But he realizes that like Sabaoth is really interested in him and Leia and her twins. He really wants the two twins that she's still pregnant with. That's a really weird thing. And that stuff just doesn't sit right with Luke. And that's kind of where we get to the story with Mara a little bit later. So while Mara Jade is finally making her way back to Talon Karrde after being captured by the Empire, she has this mission. She needs to get to this information from Talon Karrde to where the dreadnoughts are, to where the Katana fleet is, so that she can deliver it to Thrawn. Well, she wasn't given the same amount of days that Thrawn initially promised, and he arrives with the Empire anyways, and he takes capture of Talon Karrde. So he just basically abandons his whole promise to Mara, and he just comes early and takes control and captures Talon Karrde because he wants to just get the information for himself anyways. He doesn't really see Mara as a reliable ally in any way. He sees her as just some old part of an old empire that's no longer around, and she doesn't really serve any purpose to my empire now. She has no reason to be here anymore, and she's not part of my empire. So he takes Talon Karrde capture, but he doesn't capture her. So he brings her aboard, and she's angry about it. They have a little conversation again, but he does send her on her way. She can still kind of be part of the Empire in a way, but it's nowhere near what she would have initially wanted, as the, Emperor's hand and stuff. She's now just kind of like this old ally of the Emperor that Thrawn just kind of is like, okay. And Mara immediately realizes pretty quickly that, I feel way more loyal right now to Talon Karrde than I do the Empire. So it's kind of that turning point. She just doesn't want to be part of the Empire anymore. There's no reason or care for her to be in the Empire anymore. She's realizing that, okay, maybe I wasn't even the special only Emperor's hand anymore. And now Thrawn doesn't even want anything to do with her. He has captured Talon Karrde, this man that she respects way more. So she's got way more respect now for Talon Karrde, and she wants to rescue him. Because right now, Talon Karrde thinks that Mara turned on him. Because the Empire arrived right after she got there. So now she wants to rescue Talon Karrde. Makes sense. And the only guy right now that can really help her get Talon Karrde away from Thrawn is Luke Skywalker. The guy who she desperately wants to kill, even though she keeps helping him instead. So she goes to Jomark. She finds out where he is. She goes to Jomark, finds Luke, asks him for his help, and essentially R2-D2 in the X-Wing and her and Luke all kind of take on Sabayoth, and they kind of zap him and knock him out and, shoot the ground around him, knock him out, and they get away from him. So Luke is abandoning Sabayoth because he's a dark side crazy man. And Luke realized it pretty early on, but now he's finally giving up that hope that this man can actually help him. And he is getting away from Sabayoth, and he's like, well, why not? I'll just help Mara Jade now because she needs my help. I'm a Jedi Master, and she needs my help. So I help out, even though she wants to kill him so badly, and she said it many times, and she was a servant to the Emperor, he'll still help her out because he's Luke. He's Luke Skywalker. He's a Jedi. That's what they do. So I like that. I like that stuff. So we got this whole scenario in the story of where Luke and Mara Jade are making their way into the Star Destroyer, Thrawn Star Destroyer, and they need to sneak their way in, get Karrde out, and it's just another activity thing to bond these two characters closer together, Mara Jade and Luke, because she hates him so much, but yet she needs his help all the time, and she almost always wants to just end up helping him in the end. She just helps him all the time. So it's why is she doing this if she hates him so much? Well, that's kind of her big story right now, is she's kind of moving on from the Emperor and the Empire, and she's realizing that things aren't the same anymore. I was abandoned, and here's Luke Skywalker right here treating me with all this respect and helping me out. And I think that's kind of the point of all this, getting these two together again to go rescue Karrde, is to just have them create a stronger bond once again. So they do get Talon Karrde out. They escape on the Millennium Falcon, which is actually in Thrawn's possession because Leia left it at Endor. Because at Endor is when Leia went to meet with her Nogri friend. They met up and left on his ship. So she left the Millennium Falcon just there hovering over Endor. So Thrawn found it, and he ended up just taking it in. So he had their ship. They escape on the Millennium Falcon, and they get away very narrowly, though. So, Thrawn realized they were there pretty easily once he saw their little transport ship that they got on. But they did manage to get away. They snuck away. As a reward, I guess you could say, Karrde is okay, the Empire is definitely not my friend anymore in any way. I can't be friendly with them. How about I give you guys the Katana fleet? So that is where they head off to. They head off to Coruscant because, you know what? I'm going to give up the Katana fleet to the Republic. I feel like they deserve it. The Empire is only going to do crazy shit with it. So I'm going to go give it to the Republic. And that's kind of where that bit ended. And I got to say, Grand Admiral Thrawn, he handles it real well. I mean, obviously it's a defeat for him. He has plenty of defeats in these stories and these battles that he's in. And even when he's got a defeat, they don't treat him like he is a dumbass. You know, you got these characters, and these Disney shows these days, like Rebels, for example. I liked some of Rebels, it was okay-ish, but like, you have like these Imperials out there that are just so incredibly stupid. They look like idiots when they get defeated, and they're like bumbling fools. But Thrawn, he's so calculated, and he understands what he's doing. Even if he loses, he's immediately onto the next thing. Like, okay, we're going to do this instead. We're going to move on to this. I have another plan. We're going to go ahead and just make sure that the best outcome in this scenario still happens, and he moves on. So Luke, Card, and Mara Jade got away, but he realizes that there's another person out there that can help him get to the Katana fleet, because he's been poking around and he found the contact. He found out who the contact was that also knows where the fleet is. So now he's racing to get to that contact where Han and Lando are also going. So it's going to be a big convergence there. Meanwhile, where Talon Card, Luke, Mara Jade, and all them, Leia, are all heading to Coruscant. And then Thrawn is out there trying to get to the other contact who knows where the fleet is. So there's two people right now that know where the fleet is. Card is going to give it to the Republic. Thrawn is going to hopefully attempt to get it from this other guy. And it's a race to who can get to the fleet first, who can get to the coordinates first and take control of the fleet. So yes, as that race happens, Han and Lando do make their way to this like underwater base or whatever where this contact is. And they realize that Niles Ferrier is working with the Empire, and he is there. He followed them there because he put a tracker on their ship. And he's there he's already captured the contact. So he knows who the contact is. He's already got the guy. He just needs to get out of there. The Empire arrives. They start shooting the ship, and they manage to escape. Niles Ferrier manages to escape with the contact. So now Thrawn has this guy who knows where the fleet is, and it's only a matter of time until he is able to get the information from him. And Card even mentions that like this guy, I think he was like the captain of the ship that Card was on years ago. This guy is going to fold under the Empire pretty quickly, and he knows the tactics of the Empire, and he knows that he's going to fold pretty quickly, and he'll get the information real quick from this guy. So it's only a matter of time now. Card does go to the New Republic. He does offer the Katana fleet to the New Republic. He doesn't tell them the coordinates right away. He's going to keep it close to him until he himself can go there as well with them. But of course, when they get there, Fela himself is still being a pain in the ass, and he is screaming out like, oh, this is fake. The Katana fleet, it's not really happening. It's not really out there. It's not a thing. It's a fake. He's not telling the truth. Why would the smuggler, whatever guy, tell the truth here? Why would he tell the Republic the truth? So once again, he is just absolute pain in the ass, trying to take control, be in charge, be that guy in charge at the New Republic. And Card is not having it, so he sends out his own stuff a little early. He sends Leia out early with Luke, Han, Chewbacca. They all go out early to try and find the fleet before Fela can get his official granted fleet or crew to go out there and check for the ships. So it's all this big convergence now. Can they get there before Thrawn? So Han, Luke, Lando, Chewbacca, they're all on like their own little transport, and they make their way to the Katana fleet after like 4 days. So it takes a little while, even at light speed, to get to these areas in the galaxy here, and they make their way 4 days later. They get to the fleet, they see a bunch of dreadnoughts there, and they choose one that Luke specifically feels through the Force that like is the one they should go and investigate. So these ships are just sitting out there in space, and they're just basically tidied up, and they're pretty well kept. Lights are on. There's droids apparently in there that have been keeping things relatively like clean, even though all the crew of this whole thing like died. I don't know. I think they like either like killed each other, they went crazy or something. The whole crew of this Katana fleet is dead. But the ships are just sitting out there. And Luke ends up choosing the one that's like the main leader of the fleet. It's like the Katana itself. And they investigate it. They go to the bridge. They kind of learn some things. And as they're doing that, Fela, along with Card and Leia, arrive in their own official transport from the New Republic. It becomes this big showdown with Borsk Fela, where he kind of wants to be the guy in charge. And he comes in and immediately orders the arrest for Wedge, who is also there helping them out, Wedge Antilles. Han Solo, Lando, Luke, all of them. He orders the arrest for them because they went there early without the official permission of the New Republic. And this guy is absolute pain in the ass. So he gets there, tries to take charge, but Leia does a little maneuver and gains the trust of the people on her ship, and Fela is kind of thrown to the side, and she is taking charge of the ship. So Fela's out of the picture. Everything's okay. They got to the ships, but then the Empire arrives, and the Empire starts to fight. There's a little bit of a battle that goes on. They lose a Star Destroyer. And then something that Talon Card realizes. Talon Card, while he's there in the ship with Leia, he's realizing, he was counting the amount of ships with the scanners and stuff. He's realizing that most of the ships there are not even there. Most of the fleet of the Katana fleet is gone already. So he's realized that the Empire already got there. So the Empire already got to the fleet. They lost. Okay, they've been fighting the Empire here for these few ships, but in reality, the Empire has already been there, and they've gotten most of the ships. So they lost this round. Thrawn has got most of the ships now. He's just got to find crews to manage the fleet, and that is the only hope that they have now. Is Thrawn will take quite a few months or whatever to get a new recruitment for his new fleet that he just got. That is their only hope at this point, because Thrawn did manage to get the information and get to the fleet before them. They defeat the Empire in their own little battle here, but in reality, the Empire did win this round. So the last book, the Empire kind of lost. This time around, the Empire managed to win this time. Not in the specific battle that happens, but they do win in the end, where they get the fleet. So Sabayoth, after being defeated by Luke and Mara Jade and R2-D2, he makes his way back to Thrawn. He literally races towards Thrawn, and he jumps aboard the ship, and he kind of postpones Thrawn from actually joining the battle. So Thrawn sent out the other ship that got destroyed, but Thrawn was stuck behind because Sabayoth was forcibly making his way onto the ship to talk to Thrawn. And he immediately says, yeah, you know what, you've made promises and you haven't made these promises happen yet. Luke is not with me right now. I haven't gotten Leia and the twins yet. I'm taking charge of your cloning thing on Tantus. I'm taking charge of this. It's where he was initially. He's going to try and take charge now of Thrawn's little project on Mount Tantus. So that is his threat now. He's like, I'm coming in and I'm going to take charge. I want to become irreplaceable. I don't want to become dispensable in any way. I want to be there. I'm going to be part of your big project here on Tantus. I'm curious to see how Thrawn deals with this kind of power struggle now with Sabayoth, with all of his Force abilities, and how Thrawn deals with that, because he's got the lizards and stuff, the Salamari, but how much can he hold off with Sabayoth and his power while he's still a tactical genius? And that feud is definitely gonna probably and hopefully be seen here in the last book as I read it. But yeah, definitely interesting. Power struggle a little bit within the Empire right now, and we'll see where that ends up. So as the battle ends, the Empire leaves the battle. Bel Iblis joined the battle, and he's kind of with the Republic now, helping them out. So they got a lot of allies again, but they've realized that they've lost. Another issue has arisen. While they're, going amongst the ruins of the battle and picking up bodies and stuff that are kind of probably just floating around that Luke defeated, they're realizing that they're going to have a much shorter time window for Thrawn finding his fleet and his people to take control of his fleet that he's got. He doesn't need recruitments, at least nearly as much as they initially thought, because he is now using clones. So Thrawn is creating clones for his trooper army, and that will be a major issue, because they were hoping that Thrawn would take a good several months there and stuff to rebuild his fleet and get a much bigger army, but instead now he's using clones. So now they're realizing that this cloning stuff is now another issue here with Thrawn, and that is something that they got to deal with and realize. So Akbar is still arrested. That's how the story ends there, really. So the big cliffhanger is that there are now being clones used. There's a power struggle, at least seemingly, with Sabayoth and Thrawn and the Empire a little bit. I think Thrawn will be fine, though. But there's that issue going on. Akbar, again, is still arrested. Fela's still an issue, I think, well, not really. He's kind of like put to the side. He kind of lost trust with some of his supporters within the New Republic. But I don't know how that's all going to end up wrapping up here with Akbar. But hopefully we get to see a little bit more of Akbar. Probably still have some stuff with the Nogri to happen here in Book 3. Sabael stuff. So lots of big things to come. I'm kind of aware of a few little things. Not that much, though, to be honest. Like, I'm surprised I don't know nearly as much as I probably should from The Last Command. I do know that Thrawn dies. I'm not spoiling it for anyone here. It's an old story. I know that. These are new to me. I'm reviewing them because they're new to me. It's an old story. Thrawn dying is nothing new. I know who kills him, but I don't exactly know the circumstances of what ends up, happening to that point. So it'd be interesting to see where that all concludes and how it gets to that point. I don't actually know what happens to Sabaoth, so I'll be curious to see. I'm assuming maybe he dies, but I actually don't know what happens to him, believe it or not. I don't know what happens to him, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's an interesting story. It's just nice to have the main heroes in this story, Like, I know Disney right now, they've kind of killed all these characters, at least most of them. And right now they're doing Thrawn. They're doing the Thrawn stuff with, like, Ahsoka and Mandalorian, Din Djarin, Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, all these characters from their little cartoon shows and stuff. And look, I liked some of Rebels. And I like Ahsoka. There's some characters I like there, but it's not Han, Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, C-3PO, Lando. It's not any of these characters. And it's just not going to be the same. I don't like how Thrawn was done in Ahsoka at all. It's unfortunate. But I think this is definitely described as, like, definitive, like, sequels to the original trilogy. And I'm enjoying it so far. And I really love Thrawn. Thrawn is great in these. I wish Thrawn was like this. I think he was definitely like this a little more in Rebels. I know people don't like Rebels. There's quite a few people who don't. But Star Wars Rebels, I think, was a little better because he didn't look all, like, out of shape and stuff too, like he did in Ahsoka. That was a little weird, but he was definitely really bad in Ahsoka. But this is like peak Thrawn right here. I love it. It's not even the same character to what we see in current Star Wars. So we'll see. I'll see how it ends when I read this next book, and I'll get a review up. But yeah, that is my Dark Force coverage, Dark Force Rising coverage and review. I'm enjoying it so far. I'll probably end up reading the stories after that as well, because I'm curious to see where, like, the Mara Jade stuff goes and Luke, and maybe it'll full blown just get me into the EU stuff. We'll see. But yeah, that is my long and nice and extended review here of Dark Force Rising. We will see how I feel about Last Command and that story overall, and then after that I will have that trilogy in my mind and I will know how I feel about it.